Ramblin man here. Man, you can't see my face. Hold on. There we go. My hair may be jacked. That's okay. Hey, look. So I was just thought I'd jump on here and talk about what's going on. So if you know, on Thursday they did the Yahoo Live. I don't know if any other outlets had it. I just happened to see it. Yahoo Live had the live version, a live filming of Dante Wright's funeral. Now, if you don't know who Dante Wright is, you haven't been watching the news, but Dante Wright's the one that the black cop gets him out of a car, and when they got him out of the car, he resisted arrest and tried to get back in the car. He had him locked up like he's trying to put handcuffs on him. He jumps back in the car to take off. The white officer, female officer, says taser, 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 and shoots, but it is her weapon. So he died. Now, should she answer for this? Absolutely. And that'll be taken care of in the court of law. But here's the thing: you're gonna have two sides. People are like, oh, he was just an innocent man that was shot by the hands of police officers. Okay. The other side will be like, if you just comply, you won't die. Okay? Am I right? I'm right. Okay. So with that information, I will tell you this. If you look at his background, the reason they even had him out of the car, they pulled him over for expired tags, first off, okay? Now, and I'm just doing a little paraphrase here just because I'm trying to get to the meat of this video, because it's not really about the pullover itself, it's about his funeral. Okay, so he goes through, they pull him over, realize he has a warrant because he had been already charged on another felony, and he had bonded out. Well, then they had a warrant because he didn't show back up to court, right? So with that being the case, they were going to arrest him, which rightfully so. Well, he resists and flees. It's not his first time to flee. On one of his other charges, he had a fleeing charge on there, evading arrest. So that happens. He dies. People are in uproar because of the whole George Floyd thing. Every time a cop shoots a black man or a black woman or any person of color, at that point it becomes a police brutality. It doesn't matter. First thing, that's the first response. It does not matter if, what things are shown. You can see that in the Ma'Khia Bryant stuff. It does not matter what you see on video because that just doesn't matter. Now, at his funeral, first off, they're showing all these people in there and they're filing in, and I'm like, why is this on? I mean, they do this for like politicians, for like the Prince, when was it Prince Philip? Prince Philip died. They did it for him, but for Dante Wright, so you're gonna do it for a criminal because he was shot when he was trying to flee police. Okay. So why are they doing this? It's only for civil rights, and the bad part about that is it's not really civil rights. There's nothing that was racist about this. There was nothing that was really police brutality. It happened by accident. The cop that was doing all the stuff was black. It's just when he started fleeing, the other officer was trying to help and shot and killed him. Why was he trying to flee? Because he didn't want to go back to jail. But why was he going to jail? Because he was wrong. Okay, so they had this freaking funeral, and I just watched some of it, and I was like, I can't watch any more of this. This is just ridiculous. But when you watch the video, you can watch the video. It'll show you all the people that were there. You had Al Sharptongue there. You had all these different leaders from everywhere. I mean, this is one person, okay? They're picking and choosing who they stand up for, because that little girl in McDonald's drive-thru, I think her name was Jaslyn, she gets shot and killed. There's nobody at her funeral besides her family. And then you talk about George Floyd. Nobody's saying that George Floyd was not murdered, that he was not, but there's also nothing that says that George Floyd taking all that fentanyl didn't have anything to do with it. But they buried him in a damn gold casket. What? All that money, then the city pays his family. and this is not they're turning him into a martyr, okay? They're turning George Floyd into someone that's like, oh, why? It's like, what it reminds me of is when Jesus was set to go on the cross and Jesus had done nothing. Let's say that, Jesus is innocent, just like Jaslyn was innocent. And then you have Barabbas or George Floyd. They make a big deal of George Floyd because of the fact that, he was killed by a police officer. And then Jaslyn killed by a rival gang of her father's, but is she put it up there and said, hey, let's help save the children? Because you know how many children die in drive-bys and everything every day? Ridiculous amounts. I mean, you can go online and look at, there's a list of just children like 3 years old, 2 years old, kids laying in their beds getting shot just by stray bullets. 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds. These are just kids. Imagine for a moment that your kid is just asleep in their bed doing nothing and they get shot. And no one does anything except your friends and family, like, we're so sorry for your loss. And nothing's done. The cops are trying to, find who's done it, but nobody's talking. It's just a gang thing. It's a normal, everyday occurrence when you have warring gangs and stuff, right? But then you turn around and a criminal gets shot or killed each time doing criminal things. Ma'Khia Bryant, she was going after another lady with a knife, and now more evidence is coming out that, yeah, she was the aggressor. And you can look up videos of that too. You have the neighbors across the street talking about that she was going after this lady and that it's on his camera. He got a security camera. You can watch that feed. All that happens, and people are protesting their deaths, but no one says anything about the children. No one's saying anything about the children. At least not the major media outlets. No, they're stuck on this whole rhetoric that is being pushed by the left about, yeah, it's systemic racism. Guys, the only reason that we see any semblance of systemic racism is because the media is pushing it. Do we have racism here in the United States? Absolutely. Is it as bad as they make it out? Not even close. I want you to think about this. Like, if you think about, I'm sure Martin Luther King Jr. was, MLK was looking around right now and be like, what the heck is going on? Because this is not what he was striving for. They're making progress, and we as a nation were making progress with equality. Women rights, black rights, any kind of minority rights. And let's be honest, with all the people coming in, it's not long. I mean, right now when they ask you something, they ask about, what ethnicity are you? They say, are you Hispanic? I mean, first I say white, and if you're white, then are you Hispanic? I don't understand that question at all. So with all the mixing of all the races, pretty soon there's not going to be just a white person. So now you might be a little lighter skin, but what happens if you are, and for lack of a better word, an albino? So you're a black person that's albino, and the other person's darker. They're really dark. So, and if this stands true, because people said you can't, if you're white, you can't. If you're what was it? A black person can't be racist against a white person. So in that case, in that scenario, and I've seen this a lot of times. I've had friends that were albino, and the community itself is like, and treats them with prejudice and things like that. How is that not racist when you don't allow things just based off of their skin color? Because that's true. That is what true racism is basing something off of skin color. Just that alone, or gender or something like that. It's just racism is going off of, you don't like that person, you don't want anything to do with that person, you won't, or at all, just based off of how they look. Has nothing to do with their character, who they are, what their beliefs are, nothing, just how they look. And so that whole rhetoric where you can't be racist And people talk about reverse racism. There is no reverse racism. It's just racism. You're either black racist against white, white racist against black, against brown. It doesn't matter. You can be racist. But most of what we deal with is prejudice. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the fact that we have all these funerals going on, though, and you have white men standing up at Dante Wright's saying that we feel like you've been wronged and all, that is stupid in itself. It's like admitting, like, you know what? It's pushing that systemic racism, saying we as white men. So that white guy is reading something saying, hey, you know, we're racist and we're really sorry, pretty much. Then you have another white woman stands up and says some things, and everybody's like, yeah, you know. And then you have congresswomen and things showing up to this funeral. Now, let me tell you, down here in Texas, we had a trooper that was pulling over to help a stranded motorist. As he pulls up, he didn't even get out of the vehicle, and the motorist gets out and shoots him in the head and the torso. His name was Chad Walker. And yes, as police officers and DPS and things, they honored him with a huge service, okay? But you didn't hear about, unless you're in Texas, you didn't hear about this across the United States about, and let me just put this out there, the person that he was trying to help was a black man. It wasn't because had he pulled over and the guy shot at him and he fired back and killed the black man, it'd be a different story. We'd be talking about how he was racist and shot this guy. And that's what I'm talking about. The systemic racism is in the media and with the left, and everyone's pushing that. If I'm wrong, then I'm not wrong. Let's just be honest. I'm not wrong here. And you can do the research yourself and really figure it out. But there were no Al Sharptongue or anybody else down there watching, you know, at Chad Walker saying, hey, we're sorry that a black man came along and killed you when you were trying to help. And no, he just wants to wait until he can, anything to better himself. Now, don't get it wrong. He's gonna use the social justice and the civil rights movement to make it look like he's trying to help, but really, who's he trying to help? Himself. I mean, where are these guys getting all this money they're making? They're making all kinds of money off of this stuff. I mean, look at BLM. Black Lives Matter, $90 million they made last year, and not 1 cent of that went into black businesses to help the black community. There were no, they could have taken some of that money and given it to some of these children that are getting killed in drive-bys. Give it to them. Give it to their families. Compensate them. But no, what it was used for was, and I've heard different things, but I don't know. This is the only part of this video where I am not completely sure, but I have heard that a lot of that was used for supporting politics. And that doesn't surprise me. And for the founders, you know, buying these all these houses they're talking about now, like $3.2 million on 4 different houses. And then they say BLM stands for buying large mansions. That's funny to me. Okay, so but for them to say they haven't got 1 cent of that money, that's crazy. You create this, but you have not gotten 1 cent. You have not gotten 1 cent from BLM, really. So I just wanted to leave that out with y'all. Just tell you that this is crazy. That if you believe all that's going on right now, that all this false narrative they're pushing, then I'm going to tell you right now, I believe you are ignorant. You have not done your research and not looking. Make sure you look into the whole picture, because even NBC News, when they posted the thing about Ma'Khia Bryant, when they posted the 911 call, they left the part out about them saying, just get here now. All this stuff, you know, like, so the cop didn't know that and they even asked if they have weapons. They didn't know. They didn't say that. They said, just get here now. So he shows up, he doesn't know what he's walking into, which happens a lot with police officers. They walk in, they do not know what they're getting when they get there. So just keep that in mind. Police officers, when they stop, I'm sure Chad Walker had no idea to even look or think about it, and he let his guard down a little bit, because he's thinking like, oh, I'm help a stranded motorist, and someone kills him. And that in itself is sad, that someone trying to help, protect, and serve is murdered that way, and you don't hear anything about on the media except for in the state of Texas. Explain that to me. But that's what I'm just talking about. If you think it's about systemic racism, you're wrong. There is no systemic racism. There's the rhetoric of systemic racism, but that's being pushed by the left and the media outlets that don't want it to go back to normal. Because we could all get along perfectly. We have perfectly good unity, but in this case we can't, because it's being pushed by the other side, because they make more money off of all the stuff that's going on. They can do whatever they want to us. The government can do whatever they want to us right now, because we're so focused on the divide that we don't notice all the stupid crap and the freedoms that we're losing. That's my take on this. I'm sorry it's a long video. No, I'm not sorry. It just had to be said. There is no systemic racism in the United States. And if you feel that way, then figure out why, and are you part of the problem? Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Ramblin' Man out.